Hi, hello. So, let's talk about Rocky Horror Picture Show. This movie came out in the 70s, I believe, which is honestly iconic given how much it's held up till today. Like, it's a cult classic. I knew about Rocky Horror Picture Show since I knew that musicals were a thing. I was a theater kid. I was in literally every play in my middle school, Mrs. Potts and all. So I knew about Rocky Horror, but I've never seen it all the way through until yesterday. Which is honestly weird because I knew all the words to Time Warp. And even before that, I really liked Tim Curry. He was one of my favorite actors because of his part in It. And all that being said, I hadn't seen the entire movie until yesterday. So I've seen Tim Curry as Dr. Frankenfurter before, like makeup and the outfit and everything, but watching him actually do the whole performance for Transsexual Transvestite, I think is the name of the song, it gave me this combo of, am I attracted to this person or do I want to be them? It was both. It was both. So after being caught up in all the glitters and the performance numbers, the music, the whole vibe of it all, after looking at it like as it is and not being caught up in the whole performance, I started having some problems with it. So after the intro song for Dr. Frankenfurter, my immediate thought was, okay, this is a trans woman and she's going to be showing us some of her work. I knew that there was some crazy stuff like going on, but I didn't really know what the whole story was for Rocky Horror. But the side characters were using he him pronouns for Dr. Frankenfurter, and that threw me off. Like, it made me think, so is this not a trans woman, or are we just not using the right pronouns, or does this character not care about what pronouns that are used in reference to them? Like, is Frankenfurter, if Frankenfurter isn't a trans woman, then is he a drag queen? And people were just confused with the terms drag queen or transvestite and transsexual. Like, they were using that interchangeably, so it kind of got lost in translation what the actual identity is. And after that, I got like swept back up into the song numbers and just more focused on enjoying it rather than critiquing it. But then there were some other things that I just couldn't let go of. Something that stood out to me pretty intensely was when Brad and Janet, the engaged couple, they were spending the night at the castle, and Frankenfurter walks in and pretends to be one of them. Like, he walks into Janet's room and pretends to be Brad, like voice and outfit. And once Janet recognized that that wasn't Brad, she was like, "Oh no, I shouldn't do this. This is wrong." And then Frankenfurter's like, "Oh, but it'll be great. You should give in to your pleasures, give in to your instincts," or something like that. And he did this with both of the characters, with both Janet and Brad. And something that was funny was that Brad kind of went with it a lot easier than Janet did, which I thought, oh, haha, funny, Brad's actually gay, which is what I thought initially, because he didn't honestly seem that into Janet, but I'll talk about that in a second. Okay, I just realized I didn't expand on this, but when Janet was trying to hint to Brad that, she wanted to get married, he didn't get the hint. And there was also points throughout the movie where there was one time where he forgot her last name. I 100% think that he was, either he's gay and he wasn't in love with Janet, or he just wasn't in love with Janet. I feel like he's gay though. And this kid also be a commentary of straight people conforming to society standards and trying to fit in and everything when they might not even be straight. And like Frankenfurter was awakening something in them, like he made Janet or helped Janet be more open with her sexuality. But like this could have been expanded some more. Like people aren't different. Like straight people and cis people aren't different from LGBT people. Like it could have been brought out more. Like instead of them being in the beginning like, oh, these people are crazy. Like it could have been something that's more like open and making people realize things about themselves and not like lured into something and succumbing to sin or something like that. Brad is 100% gay, though. You cannot convince me otherwise. He pretty much just got them into sleeping with him, and it made me feel really icky. So, now getting into the problems of the representation, which is pretty much the biggest thing. That's most of what I wanted to talk about anyway. So it said, I think in the last song by one of the people that stays in the castle and like supports him and everything. She has short red hair. Totally blanking out on her name. Or no, it's before everybody got turned into statues. I mind like a steel trap. She says that he uses people. All he ever does is takes what he wants and then throws them away. He literally made them in their most vulnerable state. He took away all their clothes and paraded them in front of a bunch of people to get them like baseline and then built them up from there. He built people up so that he can use them. He got so jealous when his creation, Rocky, was getting it on with Janet. Like, Janet was over there finally expressing herself and, like, loosening up, and I feel like it was, like, a very feminist thing, like, very women rights, and, like, no getting away from slut shaming, you know? Like, he's very polyamorous and, like, open to being with a bunch of different people, and Janet was so broken up about like cheating on Brad because she's monogamous, and the girl who said that she was with Frankenfurter and was in love with the guy that he killed, she also said that she loved him. She loved the doctor, and Brad has said before that he loved Janet, but I never heard Frankenfurter say that he loved anybody. And because he's constantly bringing people in and doing things with different people, he makes it difficult for people to still love each other because of his jealousy and because he wants to make it about himself. Like, even though he makes people find parts of themselves, he still makes it about himself at the end of it. And this wouldn't be an issue if this wasn't displayed as trans representation and these other things were feeding into it. For example, when the doctor came in, he was constantly saying that these people were crazy, that they're a danger to society, that they're aliens, and it's giving very much minorities are a danger, and since they're so different, we should be scared of them. And it sucks that this is a thing because the creator, I think, is non-binary. Like, I was looking up different articles afterwards to try to wrap my head around it, and I found out that the creator is non-binary, and they were in the movie, I think. They were the character with the blonde hair, had a big shoulders. I think they were shoulder pads because it was also this big jacket. But on top of that, on top of being non-binary, I don't even know what pronoun, so I'm just going to be using they, but they said that they didn't believe that trans women were actually women. It's like, how can you be non-binary and not recognize that trans women are women? It's kind of a basic thing, you don't even have to be trans to understand that, but being trans, it should make it easier for you to understand. And with this information, adding on to how the main character was portrayed, it just made everything feel a lot more transphobic. So the way that Frankenfurter uses people is, I don't know if I'm gonna have to bleep it out, but going at it. That's the power that he uses to get people to trust him and work for him and trust him. Even the person that he created, Rocky, was just there to be his little toy. And with the doctor saying, oh, my nephew was caught up with these people that were pressuring him and putting all these things in his head, or just being bad influences, it feeds into it more. Like, one of the biggest things that come up against trans women is that they're not honest, and they pretend to be something. They lure people in to trick them, to get them to drop their guard, and that's pretty much what this was. This story personified into something that's fun and flashy and colorful. Like, this is pretty much saying that trans people are predators, and all they ever do is want to trick people and hurt people and lure people in. Like, Dr. Frankenfurter is really similar to Buffalo Bill now that I think about it, because there's a quote in Silence of the Lambs where Hannibal says that Buffalo Bill isn't a real transsexual because he doesn't want to transition. And I feel like that is pretty much an undertone. Like, it's not even said in Rocky Horror. Like, the doctor doesn't look like he went through surgeries or hormones, so his body is masculine and he dresses femininely, wears makeup, and it's like, oh, this person isn't actually a real trans person. This is just how people can see trans people. Like, because this person didn't transition, they should be feared. They should be looked at differently. Like, because they're not passing, because they're not confining to society's standards of the gender that they identify with, then they are more likely to be dangerous. That's what it seems like is coming across here. Very much Blair White. Because if it seems like, no, it is, it's that trans women have it harder, and it's usually like a game to people to try to figure out who's actually trans and for protection, because all they see is a man in a dress, and they pick on women's appearance so much, and it's even harder when you're trans. Like, women have it hard, and having to have that on top of it and have all these perceptions put out into people's heads makes it even harder. Like, just seeing a man in a dress is scary enough for people. Gender nonconformity or being trans is scary enough for people. And the killing and sensual stuff is just add-ons. It's just what they fear the worst. It's what they think comes next. Because, oh, this is something different. This is something I'm scared of because it's different. So obviously it's just gonna get worse from here. And like, to top it all off, Tim Curry is cis. He's cisgender. It's gonna be less likely that he understands the importance. What word am I looking for? The importance, the impact that this is gonna have on an entire community. Like, it would make more sense for a trans woman to play this part, and it would be more likely that the representation would be better if a trans woman played this part and that a trans woman wrote the character. So even with all the negativity that it seems to bring on the perceptions of trans women, I still love this movie. So why do I still love this movie? We as trans people have to constantly put aside our own morals, our own feelings to just experience media, and especially when it comes to media that's supposed to represent us. Even though I have these problems with it and it can be sending a harmful message, it's fun. Like, even though hearing the word transvestite and transsexual being used like interchangeably, well, there were some other things that made me uncomfortable. It was just so fun, and I honestly loved it. I loved the musical numbers. I loved how Frankenfurter was dressed and how the makeup was, and it was like, it just like took me to a happy gay place. We constantly have to put aside our morals just to enjoy something, and my first encounter with trans representation was Boys Don't Cry. And that movie is full of pain and horror and trauma. But it was still something that showed me that I can still exist, and it's possible for me to exist. Like, yes, I would have to fight and I would have to be cautious, but it's still possible for me. And honestly, that's really sad. And also reminded me that there are people before me, and there's people that continue to show up and show out that are paving the way for people to just exist and be comfortable and make the world just a bit better. Like, the Doctor is dynamic and hot and an interesting character. And I think that obviously he isn't a good person, but it still makes me happy that he exists. That even though he isn't a good person, he's still a really cool character, and that people can see that trans people can be cool and fun. Like, it's so out there and crazy that it's easier to look over all the bad things and just see that this person is cool and fun, which is why people dress up as him, because he's just so interesting and fun to look at and fun to be, fun to pretend to be. Like, it's a story that's pretty much, oh, you see me as this horrible thing, so why not just be this horrible thing in the most extravagant way possible? So the fact that the entire movie, the entire performance of Frankenfurter is just so captivating and it just brings you in, I think is a good representation of what gender is. It's a performance. It's like the way that people see you, the way that you present yourself is, it's all an act, it's all a performance, and you can see yourself in Frankenfurter. You can see himself in the confidence that he has, how he dresses, how he presents himself, the one-liners that he has. It's always funny and witty and makes people look at themselves. Like, he is gender, I guess is what I'm trying to say. There's just this balance of feminine and masculine qualities, like the brute force and the anger and the way that he dresses and like just the elegance of him. Like, it's admirable, I guess. Like, he does so much, and even though it's supposed to be something horrible and too crazy and alien, it still draws people in because it's so crazy and alien. And the fact that this came out in the 70s, like, we're still fighting for people to freely express their gender and like transition and everything now, and this came out in the 70s. This is why I think it's so important, because even though there are some problematic things about it, it paved the way and it's still important. So, in conclusion, we're allowed to like it. And I don't think that this movie was meant to be something painful or like negative experiences for trans people. So this doesn't really take away from the fact that this movie can cause some people to have certain perceptions and cause people to see trans women negatively and treat trans women negatively. So with that, I don't think we should make more movies like this. I don't think we should make trans people out to be predators or deviants or murderers, because it adds on to that pain. I'm looking at you, J.K. Rowling. Like, that story's been told enough, too many times. And it's important to just portray trans people as regular people existing, living their lives. So how about we do more of that and enjoy these movies as much as we can. Let me know what you think. I hope I covered everything that was problematic. I don't know if I did, but by all means, add on to it. Thank you for watching, and protect trans women, because they have it a lot harder than anybody, especially Black trans women. So, links down below, education, donations. Hope I can find enough. Thank you for listening to me talk about this. This movie is one of my favorites now. Anyway, okay. Thank you for watching. Really appreciate it. Be nice to people. Bye.